Ready to learn a little bit more about the features of Tacticus? Today we'll continue with our beginner's guide and look at how you can help your guild in raids. Hello everyone. As a continuation of my beginner's guides, which are linked below, I wanted to explore a topic which is very close to the heart of my guild, the 7th Crusade fleet, and that is guild raids. We spend a lot of time together sharing replays and generally working together on how we can get the best out of our performance each season. One of the things we were struggling with was that our newer players always felt that they weren't performing, and so through compiling of some data, we got to see how everyone was getting on. I'll share some of what we did so that you can think about whether it's worth the time investment for your own guild. But once everyone was comfortable with playing guild raids, we really started working together on improving all of our players, and I want to share some of these tips that we've learned with you all. As this is a beginner guide, I'm going to focus on characters that are upgraded to Silver 1 quality. I could go lower to Bronze 1, but a lot of the tips I share can also help even the most recent joiners to Tacticus. We will look at general tips, specific ones for each guild raid boss, and finally some of the data we collect in the 7th Crusade fleet. But first, we saw last week that Castellan was in a lot of trouble. I need to reach out to someone that can help him, and also you with the rules for registering for the prize giveaway that I'll hold in the next week's video. So excuse me for a moment. Vindicta, are you there?
Yes, Jace, I am here.
Have we heard anything from Castellan or the recruits?
No, we sent in a new team that you can see on screen now, and we have also lost contact with them. I want to put together another team to go down to the planet and understand what has happened.
Approved.
For all of you that want to join me and have the chance to win up to 50 Vindicta character shards, then all you have to do is add a comment below with the name of your favourite character from Tacticus. Then tune in next week to see how the mission went and whether you won or not.
So let's start with the why. Why play guild raids? Firstly, being part of a guild just makes the game so much more enjoyable. Sharing the game with new friends and driving towards common goals makes the grind so much more fun. Doing the guild raids and of course sharing items together is the best way to contribute to your guild's overall success currently. As you kill each guild raid boss, you get two important things: orbs and guild credits. Orbs become very rare as you get later on in the game, so earning as many as you can as early as possible will pay off later. For the guild credits, it helps you buy XP tomes or character shards of any of the characters available in the guild shop. All incredibly useful stuff. Next, we'll move on to different bosses. I would recommend giving this a watch now, but then coming back again to look at it just before you go into a fight with them for a refresher. So let's start with the main boss this season, Szarekh the Silent King, and we will look first at some general rules for all the bosses before diving into the specifics for this boss. When you start a boss battle, the first thing to do is not rush. Just take a moment to take in your situation, and especially the scenery. In all boss battles, if you want to maximize your damage, you want to get your damage dealers onto the high ground. So the first thing to look for is, where is the high ground? The second thing is the general terrain around you. Are there any choke points or barbed wire that could slow your advance down? The barbed wire is especially important against Szarekh, as we'll talk about in a second. There is one big thing to be aware of though, and that's his Annihilator beam attack. When you see the ground flashing below you, just move your troops away from that hex, otherwise you'll take a lot of piercing damage, and at Silver 1 level, you will die. As Szarekh starts on his throne, having too many melee troops means that you can't get enough attacks in. That is, unless you can pull him down from his throne. Each season, there seems to be a random way to do this, almost like a magic hex you can stand on, and it'll trigger him to come down more often than not. A couple of ways my guild have managed to do it is putting our weakest characters onto the barbed wire, enticing Szarekh down to attack us, or splitting our forces in two to cover as much ground as possible. It doesn't always work, but once we find a way, we share our replay and then all the guild tries to see if they can replicate it. I would say it's around a 75% chance of duplicating the trick. Once Szarekh is down, surround him with as many troops as you can get. So at early levels, Archimatos is a great character for this, as he can surround Szarekh with really damaging troops. Follow that up with Yarrick once Archie's troops are all dead, and a second wave of damage can really boost your overall score. So here are some useful characters for you. Shosul, who can get a load of drones out and add a marker lighter to Szarekh, then back him up with Revas, who can use that marker lighter to do more damage. especially since Szarekh is living metal and Revis does more damage to mechanical characters. If you're having trouble, Thaddeus Noble and either Calandus, Maugan Ra or Certus will do good damage at range. Just make sure to keep the snipers 2 spaces from Thaddeus to boost their damage with his passive. Other spawning characters, Aleph Null and Anufet, help to keep him trapped if it comes down. Finally, and I will tell you that these characters are useful in nearly every guild raid battle we're going to talk about, take a look at Marneus Calgar and Eldrion if you have them. Obviously, Marnius Calgar is a legendary character, and so not everyone has them, but Eldrion is possible. If you get them into the right position, they simply make the difference between an okay score and a much better score at Silver 1 level. So let's talk about the next main boss I want to grapple with. Ghazghkull has really clear patterns in his play, and it's important to read them correctly. If you want to improve and work with your guild, share your replays together. Ask your guildmates what they're doing when they get a good score. I've learned so much by doing this, and so has the rest of my guild. Ghazghkull starts by moving to prepare for a sprint across the map. If you're in the middle of that sprint, then you will get suppressed, meaning you can't move too far nor trigger your active, as well as taking a chunk of damage and generally at Silver 1 level dying. After the first sprint, you can see this fan-shaped attack, and this is what warns you that the Storm Boys are about to come in. At this point, you want to make sure you have plenty of interference around the map for them to deal with. Two of my favourite Silver 1 characters again are Archimatos and Commissar Szarekh. They combine very well to create a lot of spawns that can continue to hurt Ghazghkull. For newer players, this is generally a good strategy to deal a lot more damage before your characters die. If you combine this with someone like Aleph Null or Abraxas, they can create spawns for the Storm Boys when they attack. Revas's Overwatch and Shosil's Marker Light boosts damage, or Shosil's drones also create more targets that can work well. Finally, Ulf or Brother Jaeger are another two that work very well in this mission as they auto-attack anyone coming at them. Ulf especially is very cool because his ice can slow down the Storm Boys if you time it correctly, and he will sneak in an extra attack against Ghazghkull if he stood next to him just before he starts the sprint or does his fan attack. Otherwise, just do the most damage you can squeeze in before you bravely fall. Next, we will look at another of our newer guild raid bosses, Mortarion. This Twisted X Primarch of the Death Guard was a huge step up for many of our guild members, and anyone who's sitting on silver characters gets really stomped. At higher levels, Aleph Null along with some decently leveled scarabs can block Morty, but at the lower levels they get stomped, and so my advice is to pick some ranged characters and just keep separated as much as possible while dealing damage. Of course, as always, dropping an Archimatos active followed by Szarekh works pretty well, but otherwise think about the following characters. Rosita works very well as she does extra damage to Psychers. Eldrion can pump up everyone's damage. Thaddeus and Morgan Ra are a great pairing, especially if backed up with Eldrion. And finally, Shosil also puts down the damage with Revas backing up. Here, you can just do as much as you possibly can before you finally succumb to Mortarion. You won't do that well, but just keep trying out different teams, and in the meantime, keep pushing your characters up to gold rarity. Okay, so we got destroyed by Morty, but let's go against some easier bosses. And I'm going to show you a 2-for-1 deal here with the Hive Tyrant and Tervigon, because both of these bosses require you to follow a similar set of tactics. Here, we want to get as many spawning characters as possible, and ideally Bellator. The ideal situation is that we get Bellator into our place somewhere around here, but remember that the map won't always be the same. There are different maps for different seasons, but whichever map you get, check and see if you can get the bosses to end up in a space where you can get above him. Then it's just a simple job of continuing to spam spawns around the Tervigon and Hive Tyrant as much as possible. Start with Archimatos and Aleph Null, then later, once you're around 3 rounds in, drop Bellator's Intercessors, Anufet's Necron Warriors, and Commissar Szarekh's Cadian Guardsmen. Eldrion can boost everyone's damage, and you'll really put down some decent numbers. From there, just keep hitting them as much as possible, and note down what you end up with. Keep trying to optimize and get higher scores every season as your team grows. Now let's take a look at our newest guild raid boss. I'm going to be very honest with you though, this boss is a killer. When you're silver 1, you won't get too many hits in, so do whatever you can. First, you want to try and lure this monster, and so if you use Revas and the drones, then that can work well. Now we have the Screamer Killer in an excellent place. Every turn she will swing and spit. When she does, she will kill everything in melee range and then whatever she spits at. However, you can stop her from spitting by standing one character next to the edge of the map. Now the Screamer Killer will swing and kill everyone around her, but she won't spit at you. From there, just keep sacrificing one character every turn and keep dropping your spawns around her. This is the best you can do at your current level. Even at gold 1 you're not really high enough to do serious damage, so you have a little while to go. The last thing I want to share is some ways I collect data for the guild raids. Sadly, we don't have a way to get the damages any other way than manually recording it, and so this is what I do after each boss is killed. I go back in, record the damage each player did, and the number of battles they did, and of course our final result. With all this data, we store this and look at different things. Did we improve from last season overall? How many battles it took to kill each boss, and has that improved from the last time we had that boss? Did everyone turn up for the epic and legendary battles? Because all of your team should be doing around 24 to 26 battles. Who has the highest average damage? And how are they improving from last season? And that's everything for today. Don't forget to write your favourite Tacticus character below to enter into next week's prize draw for the Vindicta shards. Good luck in the hunt.